Chapter 42, Feathered Descendants. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blood spurted as the blade was yanked free. The ninja, his cloud village headband gleaming, stared in disbelief at the figure behind him. He didn't get another word out, collapsing to the ground, his face a mask of shock, despair, and fear, and that was just the beginning. The whoosh of a blade followed in quick succession. A few muffled gasps later, an eerie calm settled over the scene. Yui Xianyu, ready to get his own hands dirty, stopped short, surprised to see someone had beaten him to it. He watched the sole survivor with a knowing look. Tap. 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 The figure, sheathing a bloody short sword, approached Yui Xianyu, stopping just a few feet away. The newcomer dropped to one knee without hesitation, her beautiful face bowed low. A hint of excitement and admiration colored her voice. Yui Han, reporting to the clan leader. Yui. Clan leader. That's a title I haven't heard in a long time. A flicker of memory crossed Yui Xuanyue's face. He gazed down at the blonde woman before him. Her skin was strikingly fair, her figure tall and curvy, easily on par with Tsunade. He wasn't immediately convinced. He replied evenly. Proof. Without a moment's hesitation, the blonde woman reached up and tugged down the already low neckline of her light gray mesh shirt. A generous expanse of snow-white skin was exposed. Then, focusing her chakra, something began to happen. As Yui Xianyu watched, a red mark began to materialize on the woman's smooth skin. Yui Xuanyue's eyes lit up. Yes, the woman was undeniably a member of the Yui clan. Back when he'd become clan leader, he'd created a secret technique, designed so that scattered intelligence operatives could verify each other's identities. Only through a specific chakra manipulation could the identity mark be revealed, a safety measure he'd conceived. As for the mark's appearance, he considered it a little personal touch. Yui Xuanyue's demeanor instantly warmed. Do all members of the clan carry this mark? He asked. Yui Han, unfazed by her partial exposure, replied respectfully, Clan leader, as per the crisis response plan you established, the Yui clan followed orders and scattered throughout the ninja world. To ensure secure communication and confirmation of identity, the elders implemented your mark technique on every member of the clan, passing it down through our bloodline. Yui Xianyu understood. So, you're part of the Yui clan cell embedded in the hidden cloud village. Yui Han nodded. Within the hidden cloud village, I'm known as Samui. Samui. Yui Xianyu studied the beautiful, cold woman kneeling before him. Her skin was so fair, it was hard to believe she was a cloud village native. No wonder she seemed different from most cloud ninjas. She carried the blood of the Yui clan. As for whether her fair skin might draw unwanted attention within the hidden cloud village, the land of lightning wasn't exactly isolated. People traveled in and out frequently. Besides, fair-skinned individuals weren't unheard of in the area, so it wouldn't be a big deal. Stand up and tell me about the clan situation in the decade since my absence, Yui Xianyu ordered, then added, and pull up your clothes. Yui Han, now known as Samui, rose and glanced down at the weight that had always been a burden on her shoulders. She hadn't paid it any mind, but still, she adjusted her top as instructed. Every member of the Yui clan had been taught about the glorious deeds of Yui Xianyu, the most amazing and powerful clan leader in the clan's history. Samui, like every Yui clan member scattered across the ninja world, held Yui Xianyu in the highest regard. So, when word reached them that the legendary clan leader had resurfaced in Konoha, the Yui clan, ever vigilant about their true identities, acted swiftly. Samui, for example, had chosen to join the Cloud Ninja search party. When she'd stumbled upon Yuro Gengetsu, she hadn't hesitated to draw her blade, turning on her fellow Cloud Ninjas to ensure the clan leader's secret remained safe. Samui didn't care about blowing her cover, so how could she possibly be concerned about a little skin, especially in front of him? If she could, she would gladly serve him personally. It would be the ultimate honor for a member of the Hagoromo clan, like the Hokage to Konoha. Furthermore, the bond the Hagoromo clan felt toward Yuro Gengetsu was something outsiders couldn't possibly grasp. On a related note, it was important to mention the biggest cautionary tale, Uchiha Madara. No other clan leader in history had failed so spectacularly. Even Uchiha Setsuna, an absolute hawk who wanted to launch a coup and overthrow. The second Hokage, Senju Tobarama, hadn't supported him, a testament to his disastrous leadership. It was still early, aside from a handful of cloud ninjas who'd stumbled upon the place while seeking their fortune and met an untimely end. Shinyun Valley remained deserted. In front of the statue of Hagoromo Gengetsu, the real Hagoromo Gengetsu listened intently as Samui recounted the changes the Hagoromo clan had undergone in the past decades. Honestly, since Hagoromo Gengetsu had been hit by that dump truck and transported to the familiar yet alien world of Naruto, he'd mostly been treating it like a game. Did he realize that offing those corrupt daimyos would bring consequences? Of course, he did. It was just that he'd lived a drab, unfulfilling life in his previous existence. He could only seethe inwardly at all the injustices he witnessed. He didn't dare take action. He was always strapped for cash, even if he wanted to donate. He even worried that doing so would cause trouble for himself and his family. He was, in a word, utterly mediocre. Now he had a new lease on life, with incredible power at his fingertips. Why would he keep living like that? Like Captain Jia said. You bullied me before the Imperial Army arrived, and you're still bullying me now that the Imperial Army's here. The Imperial Army didn't come for nothing. From that perspective, Yui Xianhua decided he needed to live life to the fullest, without so many burdens, or else this second chance would be wasted. Therefore, when faced with the unprovoked attack by the 5 Kage, aside from the initial anger and frustration, Yui Xianhua didn't harbor the burning hatred that others might have expected. He silently vowed to inflict a bloodbath upon the 5 major ninja villages, wiping them out from men to women, adults to children, leaving no one alive. To the victor goes the spoils. It all boiled down to that. They'd seized the opportunity and nearly taken him out. Yui Xianhua, caught off guard, could only accept the situation with a sense of detachment. Of course, where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's a person, there's a trace. As an outsider, Yui Xianhua still held a few things from his past life close to his heart. For example, the Yui clan. As the Yui clan's patriarch, Yui Xianhua, always wary of being overthrown, had deliberately put some contingency plans in place. The most important of these was undoubtedly ensuring the clan's survival in the event of major upheaval in the ninja world. Clans as mighty as the Senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki, Kagaya, and Yuki, all at the top of the food chain during the Warring States period, had vanished one by one in the era of ninja villages. Yui Xianhua, familiar with the unfolding plot, had naturally mapped out a new path for the Yui clan. Now it seemed his descendants had succeeded. Chapter 43. A grand debut requires an audience. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since you died in battle, Hashirama Senju sent your effects back to the clan. The elders followed your contingency plan, discreetly dispersing clan members to various countries in the ninja world, equipped with new weapons and identities for undercover development. Samui recounted the Hagoromo clan's experiences over the decades in a flat tone. Yui Xianhua nodded. Hashirama Senju really was something else. He returned your things to the Hagoromo clan, instead of wiping them out entirely. He let the Hagoromo clan live on and told Konoha not to mess with them. The evil Senju Tobarama, or any of the other Kages, would have jumped at the chance to eliminate a potential threat, but you can't always rely on others. The Hagoromo elders, influenced by Hagoromo Xianyue's foresight, decided to scatter the clan, while the Hagoromo clan, without Hagoromo Gengetsu's protection, might still be a big deal to many groups. They were nothing compared to the 5 great ninja villages with the backing of their nations, numerous ninja clans, and massive armies of regular ninja fodder. Especially after he'd taken out the first Mizukage and crippled the first Raikage, those guys definitely held a grudge. Things played out as predicted. Numerous forces with shady intentions started watching the Hagoromo clan. If the Hagoromo clan hadn't gotten out when they did, they would have ended up like the Uzumaki clan, and the Uzumaki clan was an entire country with its own ninja village, and allies in Konoha. Despite all that protection, they couldn't stop outsiders from getting too curious. Their country was destroyed, and the survivors scattered. The Hagoromo clan didn't have the Uzumaki clan's famous sealing techniques, but their history and wealth were enough to make enemies greedy. Although they'd left their homeland years ago, they couldn't take all their assets, which was a major hit financially, but at least the people survived, scattered across different nations. The power of the major ninja villages helped the Hagoromo clan not only avoid extinction like the Senju and Uchiha, but also prosper. Samui, for example, held a good position in Kumogakure village, and even became a student of the Eight Tails Jinchuriki swordsmanship, common in Konoha, Iwa, Sand, and even Kiri ninja. Moral of the story: don't jump to conclusions about what's good or bad in the long run. Hagoromo Gengetsu suddenly thought about Hashirama Senju's grand idea of having the Hagoromo clan join Konoha and build a future together, and he couldn't help but shake his head. Hashirama, did you ever imagine Konoha ending up like this? Master Patriarch, are you really back for good this time? After detailing the Hagoromo clan situation and sharing what she knew, Samui finally asked the question she'd been holding back. She stared hopefully at Hagoromo Xuanyue's cracked face. Yui Xianyue looked at the scroll of spiritual transformation in his hand, nodded slightly and said, "Pretty much." Samui's cold face lit up with excitement, and she knelt down again, ready to obey. Master Patriarch, is there anything you need us to do? The Yui clan will always be your weapon and your support. Yui Xianyue never expected that people from the Yui clan would appear here. His plan was to look for the Hagoromo clan after his successful revival. He was even bracing for a hero's return to find his wife and daughter living in squalor scenario. Turns out, without the Hagoromo name, the clan was doing just fine. Just carry on as you have been. Hagoromo Xianyue, still adjusting, decided not to change anything right away. He glanced at the corpses of the 3 cloud ninjas lying nearby and smirked. The cloud ninjas are sure making a big effort, traveling all the way here. Konoha ninjas showing up wasn't surprising. This was, after all, the land of fire. Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't expect cloud ninjas to come all this way to get involved, even sending a team to the Valley of the Gods, hoping to get lucky. Samui reported what she knew: the Kumo ninjas still resent you for taking the first Raikage arm. When the 4th Raikage heard you were back, he sent a ton of ninja to search, looking for payback. From what I understand, Kumo is the most invested in this search out of all the 5 great ninja villages. The first Raikage was an impatient guy, and the Kumo ninjas he led have been the same way ever since. Yui Xianyue shook his head. If they haven't learned their lesson, let's give them a refresher. Cold. Here. Samui bowed, awaiting orders. Hagoromo Xianyue commanded, inform Raikage and tell him I'm here. Yes. Samui was confused, but she didn't question it. One more thing. Hagoromo Xianyue looked at the woman and pulled out a kunai. You're too clean. The words hung in the air. Stab. Blood flowed. Samui gasped but stood still, letting the kunai pierce her. That's good enough. Being a bit chubby has its advantages. For example, the attack was originally planned and should have penetrated the heart, ended up missing. Go now. Yui Xianyue waved his hand. Samui saluted, clutched her chest, and retreated, quickly disappearing from the Valley of the Gods. Hagoromo Xianyue put his hands behind his back, turning his gaze from Samui's retreating figure to the statue of himself. This was a grand entrance in the ninja world like no other. It'd be a shame if there weren't high-profile witnesses. Perfect, since Yunren was so eager to meet him, he'd use them to announce his official return to the ninja world with a bang. Gods have always looked directly at humans. The same should be true for those who stand shoulder to shoulder with gods. After Samui left, Hagoromo Gengetsu, after cremating the Kumo ninja's body, jumped on top of his statue, sat down, opened the scroll of the spiritual transformation technique, and began to study it seriously. It would be a while before the cloud ninjas, alerted by Samui's message, arrived. Hagoromo Xianyue had plenty of time to learn the spiritual transformation technique and complete his final resurrection, although enough in his eyes didn't mean the same thing as enough to other people. Like right now, this was an S-rank ninjutsu that would take others weeks, months, or even years to learn. Hagoromo Xianyue had been reading for a while, and after a few tries, he'd almost mastered it. The formulas, answers, and solution processes were all laid out in detail. Easy peasy, right? It's time to take the final step. Yui Xianyue stood up, decisive. Chapter 44 Resurrection. Resurrection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright, let's do this. The body, once bound by the forbidden breath of eternal sleep technique, rose again. This time, Hagoromo Shienua didn't hesitate. He formed the Yin seal with both hands and shouted, "Forbidden technique release." The dark film shimmering around the body began to glow, it broke apart into black, tadpole-like runes that swirled over his skin, then quickly converged at his center, forming a single, black magatama. With a burst of energy, the black magatama detached from the body, floated into the air, and evaporated before Hagoromo Shianua's eyes until nothing was left. Shienua knew this meant the breath of eternal sleep was gone for good. Thump. Thump. A powerful heartbeat echoed through the Valley of the Gods, as if a terrifying being was awakening from a deep slumber. The insects, birds, and animals of the Valley of Gods fell silent. The entire valley was eerily quiet. Shienua looked down, his true body was now exposed, but the real fight was just beginning. His body was riddled with injuries, some minor, others severe. A gaping hole marred his chest, revealing flesh and bone. Blood seeped from every wound. Even in this state, Hagoromo Shienua sensed an immense power emanating from his body, an aura that felt like battling the very heavens. More than that, the chakra within Hagoromo Shianua's body was surging uncontrollably, as if he were being stalked by a wild beast, triggering a visceral fight-or-flight response. "That's my body." Despite its ravaged state, it pulsed with life. Hagoromo Shienua stared at the body, heart beating, blood flowing, skin still vibrant, his eyes filled with anticipation. It's time. Knowing his body's condition wouldn't last, he rapidly formed hand seals. Art of spiritual transformation. After a few breaths, Hagoromo Shienua completed the final seal. Instantly, he felt his soul accelerate with incredible force, capable of taking him anywhere he desired. A spark ignited in Shianua's eyes. With a thought, his soul detached from his current form, ignoring the tear in the underworld that briefly appeared above him. His soul, propelled by the spiritual transformation technique, surged forward with unimaginable speed, breaking free from all constraints and reaching his true body in an instant, like a homing pigeon finding its way back. With a whoosh, Hagoromo Shianua's soul merged seamlessly with his body, becoming one. The next instant, the index finger of his undamaged right hand twitched, then, a sensation. A long-dormant command from his central nervous system caused his index finger to curl, followed by his thumb, middle finger, ring finger, and finally, his little finger. Wow! Mud slipped through his fingers. His 5 fingers clenched together, and his dirt-covered right hand slowly rose, coming to rest before his slowly opening eyes. Hagoromo Shienua opened his eyes, looking at the palm before him. He felt the earth between his fingers. His lips curled into a smile that gradually widened. Yes. This is it. This is the feeling. Hagoromo Shienua clutched his heart with his other hand. Thump. Thump. For the first time since being reborn into this impure form, he could feel his own heart beating within his chest, and seeing the fresh blood on his palms, Hagoromo Shienua could no longer contain himself, and roared with laughter. The taste of blood. The taste of pain. Ha 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 ha. This is the body that's truly mine. I can finally shine with the glory that belongs to Hagoromo. Ha ha. Only through first-hand experience can you truly understand. At this moment, Hagoromo Shienua could now appreciate the elation Uchiha Madara felt upon true resurrection through the reincarnation jutsu during the Fourth Great Ninja War. The glory of life is what all who appreciate death yearn for. Hagoromo Shienua clenched his fists, and power surged through him. Even with the injuries, depleted chakra, and overwhelming pain coursing through his body, he still had to experience this feeling. This sensation was completely unlike that of the impure body, intensely fresh. Finally, Hagoromo Shienua calmed himself and saw the blood still seeping from his wounds. He casually shook his head, reached out, and grabbed his black cloak, wrapping himself in it. With that done, he looked at the impure body still standing before him. It hadn't dissipated, revealing the sacrifice's true form. Furthermore, the spiritual transformation technique was still active. Hagoromo Shienua knew why. He had understood after meticulously studying the technique's training scroll that the art of spiritual transformation did not result in a complete separation from the body, as most believed. Hagoromo Shienua had theorized this previously. After all, if the soul could travel unimpeded using this technique, Kato Dan would not have died. He could have remained in soul form for some time. In addition, during the Fourth Great Ninja War, Kato Dan, reborn through impure world reincarnation, should have been able to completely break free with the spiritualization technique, instead of returning to the underworld after a brief reunion with Tsunade. The spiritualization technique had its limitations, that is, when the soul leaves the body to kill or possess someone far away, or even to transmit information, a small part of the soul remains tethered to the body as a coordinate, allowing it to be pulled back at any time, preventing it from losing its connection and being unable to locate the body. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, the reason Kato Dan's soul wasn't dragged back to the underworld after leaving the impure world body was that, in essence, his soul would always return to the impure world body, no matter the distance. The same was true now. A tiny fragment of Hagoromo Shuanyue's soul remained within the impure world body. When the spiritualization technique ended, his main soul would uncontrollably return to the impure world body. Hagoromo Shuanyue couldn't change it, even if he wanted to. After all, he would be modifying the very foundation of the technique. To change it would be to create an entirely new soul secret technique. Even if he succeeded, it would be as difficult as developing a new soul secret technique. I see. Yuro Gengetsu shook his head. Question Orochimaru, understand Orochimaru, become Orochimaru. Solve the key issue first, and deal with the rest later. Gengetsu's face was determined. He no longer hesitated, clapping his hands before the spiritual transformation ended, and stated coldly. Sever. Instantly. His soul tore apart, a small piece of his soul broke away. Gengetsu raised his head and looked back at the impure body, bearing the pain of his soul being ripped. The sound of paper being crumpled filled the air. The soul fragments were sucked into the underworld, completely replacing the original soul in the filthy body. The impure body collapsed. Instead, it was the body of an unknown sound ninja. It's over. Gengetsu looked up, and raised his real flesh and blood palm to block the dazzling sunlight. Sensing the absence of the underworld's pull, he smiled. Regardless of the twists and turns, he, Yuro Gengetsu, was truly resurrected. Chapter 45 Grand Debut. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1,000 years in the ninja world, even powerhouses like Hashirama Senju and those as legendary as Indra and Ashura all met their end. Before now, who could cheat death, who could get a second chance at life? No one. But today, Yui Xianyu pulled off something unprecedented. Okay, maybe it's not quite as slick as Uchiha Madara's resurrection with the Samsara rebirth technique down the road, but without the Rinnegan, a straight-up cheat code, Yui Xianyu still managed to come back to life. That makes it way harder, way more significant than what Madara pulled off. Hashirama, Byakuren, Reto, Ai, Ishikawa, and that jerk Tobirama. All you guys, just watch me from the afterlife and see me live it up. Ninja world, here I come. Yui Xuanyue's eyes blazed. Then, he whipped his head around, spotting some black dots in the distance getting closer. He grinned. Wouldn't be a party without guests. Perfect. Right on schedule. The news that Samui's team had been ambushed, and only he made it back, badly hurt, hit the fourth Raikage AI like a ton of bricks. Hearing that Yui Xianyu was the attacker, and it went down in Shinyun Valley, the fourth Raikage AI, trusting Samui's intel, dropped the weights, threw on his Raikage cloak, and barked at his secretary, Ma Bai. Ma Bai, prep the heavenly transfer technique. Yes, sir. Ma Bai sighed inwardly. She wasn't sure it was necessary, but arguing with the Raikage was a losing battle. After all, this was the guy who personally stormed another country's ninja village to snatch a secret technique they'd been hoarding. No sweat about the Raikage title. He was nothing like the third Hokage, who'd been politicking in Konoha for years, more politician than ninja. Soon, Ma Bai had the heavenly transfer technique ready. It was usually used for moving stuff, not people. The fourth Raikage AI was one of the few who could handle the side effects. In a flash of white light, the fourth Raikage AI vanished from his office and reappeared at a secret cloud village base on the border of the Land of Fire. Yo! What up, bro? What brings you here? Karabi, scribbling lyrics for his latest rap, saw him and went wild with excitement. Normally, the fourth Raikage AI would have chewed him out for goofing off instead of training, but he had bigger fish to fry. I'm taking command of this operation. The Cloud Village, tight-knit as they were, moved fast. As soon as they heard about Yuro Gengetsu, they sprang into action. They sent out teams to gather intel and deployed an elite squad, including the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, to the Fire Country border. They were ready to strike like lightning. The fourth Raikage decided to tag along. Let's move. God's Fall Valley. The fourth Raikage AI ordered, waving his hand. Yes, sir, that the elite cloud ninjas, Kurabi included, were used to it. They'd been on missions led by the Raikage before. God's Fall Valley was located in the Fire Country, near the border with the Hot Spring Country. Being small, the Hot Spring Country was close to the Lightning Country. The Cloud Ninja troops stationed nearby greeted the fourth Raikage AI, and they took off. At ninja speed, God's Fall Valley wouldn't be far, but as fast as they were, Yuro Gengetsu was faster. Everything was in place. He needed a warm-up to get back in the swing of things, and Yui Xianyue, announcing his comeback, had set the stage. The show was about to begin. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh, star, the air cracked, like muffled thunder rolling through Shinyu Valley. Standing in the sunlight, Yui Xianyue lifted his gaze and scanned the horizon. The Eight-Tails Jinchuriki and the fourth Raikage AI. The AB team showed up. Leave it to the Cloud Village. Yui Xianyue was surprised at the Cloud Village's muscle. From their point of view, he was just a resurrected shadow, not at full strength, but the Cloud Village was playing for keeps, going all in right off the bat. Alright. Let's see who's tougher, the fourth Raikage or the first Raikage. The wind howled, whipping the black cloak around Yui Xianyue. At the same time, bang, star, the fourth Raikage, charging forward with his heavy stride, wearing a white cape, wide belt and wrist guards, led his Cloud Ninja team into the valley. The fourth Raikage, his own white cape billowing, locked eyes on Yui Xianyue, who seemed to be waiting for them. You slaughtered my people and waited for us here. Yui Xianyue, a ghost from the past, still thinks he's some kind of god. Stand shoulder to shoulder with God? No. My dream has always been to surpass God. Yui Xianyue sighed. Then, he lowered his hood, revealing a face familiar to the five Kage. Surpass the gods. Big talk. Especially considering. Hold up. The fourth Raikage AI's eyes darted over Yuro Gengetsu's face. He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widened, and he took another look. After a few seconds, something clicked. His gaze locked onto Yuro Gengetsu's flawless skin, like a living person, and the fourth Raikage AI's face changed. Aren't resurrected people supposed to look different? Could it be? The fourth Raikage suddenly had a terrible thought. No way. Impossible. He must be wrong. A really advanced transformation technique? The fourth Raikage AI barked an order at the sensory ninja. The ninja nodded, quickly weaving hand signs. He shook his head at the fourth Raikage AI. No sign of transformation. The fourth Raikage AI's face darkened. Killer Bee, as usual, was a step behind. Why was his brother suddenly so bummed out? He was about to ask. The eight-tailed Ashiki inside him cut him off, its voice unusually serious. Bye. Watch out for the guy in front of you. He's really scary. Chapter 46 Flowers and Applause. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the eight-tails, Ashiki, with his sharp instincts, used 3 magic words to warn Killer Bee, revealing the deep fear in his heart, Bee froze. He hadn't heard the big ox speak like that in years. Even Gyuki, his own brother, only considered the third Raikage a worthy opponent. Keep in mind, the third Raikage once sheared off one of its horns, but even then, the eight-tails wasn't this scared, terrified. Being the empathic partner he was, Bee could feel Ashiki's anxiety, even though Hagoromo Genzuki was just standing there. Bee didn't get it. Hagoromo Genzuki might have been a legend in his day, but he was resurrected. With their combined strength, there was no need for this fear. Why was the big ox freaking out? Look at him. Ashiki urged. Bee glanced over. Damn, he looked young, and, like Bee himself, kinda handsome. So. Bee was about to ask, then it hit him. Bee stroked his chin. I remember the intel saying that resurrected corpses have cracks all over their skin. Huh. Why doesn't this dude look anything like the report? B finally got it. He clapped his hands, pointed at Hagoromo Genzuki, and said, surprised, gotcha. Hagoromo Genzuki turned his gaze from B to the fourth Raikage. Seeing the Raikage's intense expression, Hagoromo Genzuki smiled faintly and said, still in denial. Whatever. Mentioning the name brings back old memories. Better just call you Yondaime. You already know the answer, don't you, Yondaime? No. It's impossible. Raikage clenched his massive fists, glaring at Hagoromo Genzuki, scrutinizing every detail. You've been dead for 50 years. How could you be resurrected? Nobody can do that. If Hagoromo Genzuki really was back, it would shake the ninja world to its core. I didn't want that. But sometimes, things don't go your way. Scanning the Kumo ninja, who wore almost the same expression as the Raikage, Hagoromo Genzuki shook his head calmly. What makes a mortal isn't some inherent limit. It's the limits they set for themselves. Just because others can't do it doesn't mean I can't. Because I am Hagoromo Genzuki, the words Hagoromo Genzuki dropped, silencing the Valley of the Gods. B. Get out of here. You can't pull this off with these guys. Nyogue told Killer Bee urgently, even though it had never met Hagoromo Genzuki face to face. The man reminded it of someone who had made a lasting impression. Ashirama Senju, the tailed beasts, once thought of as embodiments of destruction, were mere playthings in that man's hands. Yoshiki, having experienced it firsthand, really didn't want to face someone of the same generation as Hashirama Senju. Hearing this, B actually calmed down, but he didn't try to argue with his brother. Knowing his personality, he just gripped the handle of his sword, ready for whatever came next, and sure enough, though shaken by Hagoromo Genzuki's resurrection, the Raikage wasn't about to be intimidated. Running away wasn't the Ai or Kumo way. His white cloak flew into the air. The fourth Raikage's face was filled with steely resolve, his dark, muscular flesh on display, as he shouted at Hagoromo Genzuki, whether you're truly resurrected or just a fake, I'm sending you back where you belong, right now. Oh, Hagoromo Genzuki tilted his head and said, you think you can? Attack. The fourth Raikage's eyes flashed, and he yelled, leading the Kumo ninja elite forward. Lightning style, lightning pillar. Several Kumo ninja clapped their hands, and a blinding light erupted from their bodies, enveloping Hagoromo Genzuki. This seemed like a vision-blocking technique, but it actually used the light as cover to lead the enemy into a subtle genjutsu. Many inexperienced ninja would easily fall for it. Hagoromo Genzuki just laughed. Not bright enough. Try harder. The light intensified. At the same time, a huge figure rushed forward, backlit by the light, crackling with lightning. It was the familiar heavy flow explosion. Seeing all this, a flicker of memory passed through Hagoromo Genzuki's eyes, then, snap. A steely palm gripped the incoming elbow. Raikage. Always so impatient. Hagoromo Genzuki stared at Ai, the fourth Raikage, and said calmly, since you arrived first, consider this a thank you gift. What are you babbling about? The fourth Raikage, not sure why, turned his other hand into a chop and swung with tremendous force. Boom. A deep crater formed quickly under their feet, as Hagoromo Genzuki and the fourth Raikage strained against each other. Amidst the sonic boom, Hagoromo Genzuki, gripping the fourth Raikage's fist, calmly said, a legend's return needs fanfare, something exciting. The blood of the Cloud Ninja, the fist of the Raikage. Fourth Raikage, you think this is enough? The fourth Raikage finally understood what Hagoromo Genzuki was saying. You bastard! He was furious, about to unleash his lightning chakra again. Hagoromo Genzuki suddenly leaned forward, nudged the Raikage's shoulder, and flung him away. The next second, he spun, a kunai appearing in his hand, and intercepted a flurry of sword strikes coming from every direction. Yo! You blocked that? What about the 7 swords? Let's see you bust a move. The sing-song voice came from Killer Bee, who had arrived. Seeing that the initial strikes failed, his body contorted, and the 7 swords shot out, clamping the swords between various body parts. Bee spun and used a bizarre taijutsu to manipulate the 7 swords, attacking Hagoromo Genzuki's body from all angles with incredible speed. Rip. The black cloak tore as Hagoromo Genzuki narrowly avoided a sword thrust from behind, and commented, "Nice swordsmanship. But the dance needs work." Chapter 47. This is the feeling I want. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Erasure Heron Blade, Killer Bee created his own fighting style. Yui Xianhua thought it was pretty damn powerful, no wonder the second pillar, who thought he could beat the sky and the earth with his Mangekyo Sharingan, almost had an existential crisis fighting against it. It's also easy to see why Samui would worship this seemingly unreliable dude as her sensei. The last swordsman to get such high praise from Yui Xianhua was some guy named Hitaki back in the Warring States period. Too bad his only descendant ditched the family swordsmanship to play buddy-buddy. Guess we won't be seeing a Hitaki swordsman blooming again in the ninja world. Killer Bee launched into another one of his weird dance steps, whipping around 7 ninja swords like a tornado. Yui Xianhua glanced down at his black cloak. Just a heads up, this is just a cloak. Try not to blow it up again. With that, Yui Xianhua made a hand seal. Magnetic release, metal manipulation. Instantly, Killer Bee felt the 7 swords vibrating wildly, out of his control, before he could even react. Whoosh, the sound of metal cutting the air. The 7 ninja swords abandoned their owner and flew away. Killer Bee was left standing there, feeling like he'd just been dumped by his girlfriend. Yo! Hold on, it was no use. Under Yui Xianhua's control, the 7 swords targeted the 4th Raikage, AI, who was sprinting back behind him with a booming step. Instead of retreating, AI's right foot hit the ground, exploding a huge crater, as he shot toward Killer Bee empty-handed. That's the thing about hand-to-hand combat in the Naruto world. It's strong, yeah, really strong, but even Night Guy, sacrificing his life with the 8 gates released formation, barely landed a hit on Madara, and only with the help of the Flying Thunder God and Kamui, and even then, Madara was more curious than hurt. Guy almost went down for nothing. A second later, Madara was back on his feet, good as new. Pure taijutsu has too many limits, like now. Hagoromo Gengetsu shut down Killer Bee's fancy swordsmanship with a simple magnetic release, forcing him to backpedal. Water release, Water Dragon Bullet. Lightning release, Thunderbolt. Seeing their teammate in trouble, 2 cloud ninjas quickly combined their jutsu into a water and lightning dragon bullet to intercept Hagoromo Gengetsu. Hagoromo Gengetsu held out his left hand, fingers spread wide. Instantly, the incoming dragon bullet began to shrink in his palm. Then, with a flick of his wrist, Hagoromo Gengetsu aimed his left hand at Kurabi and, with a shout, released the water and lightning dragon bullet back at him. Bye. Got it. Kurabi replied to Gyuki in his mind. His right hand transformed into a giant octopus tentacle, held up to block the incoming attack. Boom. The violent blast wave sent rain and sparks scattering in all directions. The 4th Raikage AI, who had already pulverized the 7 ninja swords, charged toward Yui Xianhua instead of retreating, yelling to his team, "No long-range attacks. Sea level formation." Yes, sir. There were 5 cloud ninjas accompanying Team Abby, not a big group, but all elites, perfect for a deep strike assassination mission. Hearing the Raikage's order, they moved into position and charged alongside him. But first, the giant octopus tentacle, grown from Killer Bee in his half-transformed state, slammed down. Boom. A deep gouge was carved into the earth. Yui Xianhua dodged the attack and repelled the coordinated attack from the cloud ninjas. The Raikage was already on him like lightning. Clang, clang, clang. Amid the dust, the ear-splitting sound of metal clashing echoed. Yui Xianhua and the 4th Raikage traded blows at blinding speed. Finally, Yui Xianhua saw an opening and grabbed the Raikage's arm, activating his dark release to drain his chakra, but the Raikage didn't resist. Instead, he grabbed Yui Xianhua's arm right back and slammed his massive frame forward like a runaway truck. Boom! Yui Xianhua skidded backward, dragging long gouges in the ground. Blood seeped from his still-healing wounds, staining his black cloak. He was still injured and couldn't take too many hits like that. If he was at full strength, this would be a piece of cake, but this is what I want. Pain. Shaking. Excitement. Boiling. Chakra surging, muscles straining, wounds tearing open. Only then can I truly feel alive in this world. Come on. Thrill me. Entertain me. Yui Xianyu charged forward instead of backing down. Scared of you? Never. The Raikage, battle-hardened and acutely aware of Yui Xuanyue's weakened state, cracked his neck and charged forward like a freight train. The 5 cloud ninjas, who had been repelled, seized the opportunity and swarmed Yui Xianyu again, cutting off any escape routes. Now. Billion-folding seal barrier. Karabi, having prepared his jutsu, slapped his stomach hard, and a massive torrent of ink spewed from his mouth, engulfing everything within 100 meters of Yui Xianyu. The stronger the enemy, the more effective the sealing jutsu. Grandma Kagaya Otsutsuki showed us how it's done. The Raikage and the Cloud Ninjas, who weren't worried about being sealed, focused on preventing Yui Xianyu from escaping, but it was all for show. Yui Xianyu didn't move a muscle. He simply looked up at the rain of ink. The chakra he had just absorbed from AI was rapidly burning within him. Then, crack. 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 The mild sunny day turned frigid in an instant. The Cloud Ninjas watched in horror as the falling ink froze mid-air, creating a huge ice dome, and that was just the beginning. With Yui Xianyu at the center, cold air poured out. A thick layer of ice formed out of thin air and spread across the ground with incredible speed. The Cloud Ninjas couldn't get out of the way in time. They could only watch as the soft earth turned to biting ice. They shivered involuntarily. Crack. They looked down, eyes widening in shock. Like the ground, from their feet to their calves, from their calves to their thighs, to their waist, and even their entire bodies, all of them were encased in ice. It's ice release. One of the Cloud Ninjas, who had fought against members of the Yuki clan, exclaimed in terror. He'd never seen such a terrifying ice release. As he struggled to break free, a figure appeared before him, tapping his body with his fingers as if knocking on a door. Crack. The Cloud Ninja shattered into thousands of ice crystals, glittering in the air. 1. Yui Xianyu said quietly. Chapter 48, The Limit of Dark Escape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sunlight turned the ice crystals into a dazzling explosion of light, beautiful to look at from afar, but the Cloud Ninjas felt a different kind of chill. Yuro Gengetsu was cutting them down one by one, like the Grim Reaper knocking at their door. Bang. The 4th Raikage, staggered. Lightning chakra, potent enough to rival a tailed beast, surged from him, shattering the ice around him in a series of sharp cracks. Raikage AI roared, transforming into a streak of blue lightning as he charged at Yuro Gengetsu. Killer Bee, attuned to his brother's intentions, shifted into his tailed beast form. Red Eight-Tails chakra enveloped him like a crimson aura as he, too, bolted towards Yuro Gengetsu. They flanked him from the left and right, their speed blurring their movements, making it impossible for Yuro Gengetsu to anticipate their attack. Just as Yuro Gengetsu was about to weave a hand sign. Lariat. Raikage AI and Killer Bee, moving in perfect sync, swung their powerful arms like massive hammers, teleporting the last few feet. With the force of their combined sprint, they slammed their fists into Yuro Gengetsu's head. Yuro Gengetsu didn't even have time to react. His head was knocked clean off, just like the ninjas who'd faced the AB combo before, but Raikage AI and Killer Bee didn't celebrate. Clang. The headless body of Yuro Gengetsu dissolved into an ice clone, and the flying head morphed into an ice sculpture. Raikage AI's eyes narrowed. The scream of the last surviving Cloud Ninja pierced the air. Raikage AI spun around to see Yuro Gengetsu standing atop the ice sculpture of the fallen ninja. He stepped off the ice, unharmed, looking at the headless ice clone. Yuro Gengetsu remarked with a hint of surprise, "Not a bad technique. Seems the hidden cloud village hasn't been idle all these years." Raikage AI, furious at the loss of his men, clenched his fists. "Quit acting so superior." Boom! Thunder cracked above as Raikage AI slammed his foot into the ground. With the sound of shattering ice, he charged at Yuro Gengetsu like a tank. Killer Bee, coated in his tailed beast cloak, joined him, matching his stride. Ice release, icicle shot. Yuro Gengetsu's calm voice echoed in their ears. Instantly, sharp, thick ice spikes erupted from the ground beneath their feet, aiming to impale them. Raikage AI and Killer Bee paused, dodging or smashing through the barrage, taking advantage of their momentary hesitation. Yuro Gengetsu, seemingly skating on the ice, surged forward at incredible speed toward the Abi duo. a few minutes later. The Abbey team was sent flying back, battered and bruised. Yuro Gengetsu's chakra seemed diminished, yet his presence felt even more imposing. Gyuki, seeing the tide turning against them, Killer Bee called out in his mind. Gyuki sighed, reluctant but ultimately willing to aid his partner. Roar! Just as Yuro Gengetsu prepared to pursue them, an immense figure descended from the sky. Yuro Gengetsu halted abruptly, retreating. Boom. A massive crater formed in the ground, as dust billowed outwards in every direction. Yuro Gengetsu looked up to see the eight tails in its complete form looming over him. Perfect Jinchuriki. Yuro Gengetsu scanned his surroundings, sidestepping to his left. A powerful gust of wind heralded the arrival of a huge, whip-like octopus tentacle, slamming down where he'd just been standing. The eight tails attacked again, but Yuro Gengetsu leapt onto another tentacle. Moving with fluid grace, he navigated the swaying tentacles, as if walking on solid ground, making his way towards the eight tails' head. Sensing the danger, the eight tails flailed its tentacles, trying to swat Yuro Gengetsu away like a fly. Yuro Gengetsu weaved between the flailing tentacles, dodging every strike. Seeing the distance closing, a surge of alarm coursed through the eight tails. It retracted its tentacles, encasing itself in a tightly sealed sphere, and began spinning at blinding speed. Tailed beast spin. A violent vortex erupted from the eight tails, powerful enough to push back Yuro Gengetsu and completely destroy the frozen landscape he created. At the same moment, Raikage AI seized the opportunity, flashing beside Yuro Gengetsu and landing a devastating punch. Whoosh, Yuro Gengetsu was sent hurtling backwards like a cannonball. Now that the eight tails raised its head, and a massive tailed beast ball materialized in front of its mouth, the sky and earth seemed to darken. The tailed beast ball, the ultimate force of destruction, was released, hurtling towards Yuro Gengetsu. In the expectant eyes of the eight tails, the tailed beast ball was instantly absorbed, and then, silence. How? Faint white smoke rose from Yuro Gengetsu's outstretched palm. Feeling the surge of newly acquired chakra, he looked up, a slight smile playing on his lips. Not bad. Got any more? Gyuki and Killer Bee stared in disbelief. He can absorb the tailed beast ball. That they knew about dark release. After the battle between Hagoromo Gengetsu and Shinyun Valley, the Cloud Ninjas searched for descendants of the dark release bloodline to test its limits. They conducted experiments to determine the maximum amount of chakra the dark release could absorb. They knew that while dark release could absorb ninjutsu, it had a limit. The eight tails full power tailed beast ball was well beyond that limit. Attempting to absorb it should have caused a rupture. Unlike other bloodline limits that could amplify power by consuming chakra, the dark release's absorption capacity was fixed. It couldn't be boosted. If that wasn't the case, dark release users would have ruled the ninja world. Instead, only Hagoromo Gengetsu was remembered. That was why the eight tails had unleashed the tailed beast ball, hoping to overwhelm Yuro Gengetsu. But what happened defied their expectations. Yuro Gengetsu was unlike any other dark release user they had encountered. As expected of someone as legendary as Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. I don't know why he's in such a weakened state, but, it's time to prepare for the worst. Gyuki said. Big brother's not giving up. Killer Bee's eyes were resolute. Gyuki, let's do this. Chapter 49. It's not me who should be trembling, but the whole world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rumble, the earth trembled, mountains shook, and the massive eight tails lashed out again. Hagoromo Genzuki, mid-bite into a snack, didn't even glance at the approaching beast. Regular ninjas would be terrified of a tailed beast so huge its ninjutsu just tickled it, but someone at his level. He had plenty of ways to deal with that kind of thing. Still, thick-skinned tailed beast or not, Hagoromo Genzuki was more interested in the fourth Raikage. He'd promised to greet him with flowers and applause on his reappearance, and he always delivered. Now the blood of the Cloud Ninjas was blossoming into the brightest flowers, leaving only the fourth Raikage to deal with. Besides, he needed to wrap this up fast. Every inch of his body throbbed, blood seeping into his cloak's lining. Hagoromo Genzuki, deciding he'd had enough fun, figured it was time for the grand finale. Bang! 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 The ground exploded into craters, aided by the 8 tails. The fourth Raikage, fully aware of Hagoromo Genzuki's weakened state, kept throwing punches, meeting him head-on. Finally, a tentacle from the 8 tails slammed down. With Genzuki Hagoromo's boost, the dust cloud this time was especially thick, but the fourth Raikage charged forward anyway. Even with his vision partially obscured by the dust, the fourth Raikage's next punch connected squarely with Hagoromo Genzuki's head. As before, Hagoromo Genzuki blocked the punch with one hand, and stabbed forward with the other. The fourth Raikage skillfully intercepted it. Suddenly, Hagoromo Genzuki's outstretched palm flipped. A black rod shot out, piercing the fourth's palm, continuing through, and impaling the Raikage's chest before he could react. The fourth Raikage coughed up blood, his face a mask of disbelief. What is this? It wasn't just the sudden appearance of the black rod that shocked him, but also the way it disrupted and nullified his chakra at the point of entry. That definitely made a bad situation even worse. Hagoromo Genzuki didn't bother explaining, he let the black rod remain embedded in AI's palm and chest. Releasing his grip, he summoned another from his palm, gripping it tightly, and plunged it straight into his own chest. The black rod, an advanced manifestation of yin-yang release, unlike Pain, who could mass-produce black rods thanks to the Rinnegan. Maybe it was his brush with death. After his true resurrection, Hagoromo Shenhua found his understanding of yin-yang release had deepened, not to the point of creating life from nothing, granted, but he'd mastered the basic applications and the creation of these rods. He was using it for the first time now, and the fourth Raikage was taking the hit hard. Everything was happening too fast. Karabi, blinded by the dust, hadn't noticed his brother's condition. When he saw the other black rod strike without a chance to breathe, the fourth Raikage's chakra spiraled out of control, his pupils shrunk, and one hand went to his chest. As the black rod neared, with his strong physique, he reluctantly put his other hand in front of it. Rip. Blood sprayed everywhere. In the next second, both of the fourth Raikage's hands were pinned by black rods. What fight did he have left in him now? Hagoromo Shenhua stretched out his other hand. In the blinding light of lightning, the sound of 1,000 birds screeched. Brother, Karabi, finally realizing something was wrong, swung his octopus tentacles. The fourth Raikage, his hands useless, retreated without a word, but Hagoromo Genzuki was faster. In a flash of lightning, the incoming tentacles were cleaved in half, the strike continuing onward undeterred. The fourth Raikage watched it all calmly, and quickly made a decision. It was like going back in time. A severed hand, reaching to the elbow, flew into Hagoromo Shenhua's line of sight. Yuro Shenhua raised her head and looked forward again. An octopus tentacle has swept away the fourth-generation Raikage AI who lost his arm. Chidori Senbon. Hagoromo Gengetsu waved his hand, and Senbon, composed of a large amount of thunder escape chakra, caught up with the fourth-generation Raikage AI at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, the latter was bleeding like a gourd of blood. Yui Shenhua was about to take advantage of the victory and pursue it. At this time, the eight-tailed beast, which threw AI away, condensed one small-tailed beast Jade after another at an extremely fast speed. Continuous tailed beast Jade. Dozens of pocket-sized tailed beast bombs shot towards Hagoromo Genzuki. Unlike before, after learning the lesson, these small-tailed beast Jade took the initiative to explode before they even reached Hagoromo Genzuki. Boom. 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 Violent explosions sounded one after another. Waves of strong shock waves forced Hagoromo Shenhua to stop. When there were no more obstacles, he raised his head and looked forward again, finally facing reality. Karabi transformed back into his human form, and ran carrying his seriously injured and weak brother. Ahem. A heavy cough escaped Hagoromo Shenhua's lips. He covered his mouth, and when he pulled his hand away, a smear of bright red stained his palm. Reached my limit, he'd been badly injured during the Valley of the End battle, struck by the thousand-hand Buddha. Without would-release healing, he couldn't recover quickly. He'd just fought another high-intensity battle. He'd held on about as long as he could. Hagoromo Shenhua straightened up and wiped the blood on his palms on his black robe. They got lucky. He watched the two figures disappear into the distance, shaking his head and deciding not to pursue them. He'd kept his word from the beginning anyway. Hagoromo Genzuki gazed at the cloud ninjas, now pollen scattered on the ground, and the fourth Raikage severed hand, flowers and applause. The grand opening was a success. He wondered how the ninja world would react to all this, the end of the Warring States era, the dawn of the hidden villages. Alongside Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, there was the leader of the Hagoromo clan, a man considered the equal of the gods, the mastermind behind the Battle of Godfall Valley, where a Kage was killed and another injured. A figure only whispered about in history books had returned from the underworld, stepping onto the stage of the ninja world once more. The 5 great nations and every major power would be slightly shocked when they heard the news. Hagoromo Shienua looked forward to it. As for a sneaky resurrection, no thanks, that wasn't his style. Maybe that's how heroes were supposed to act, like Madara Uchiha, who survived decades after the Valley of the End and eventually awakened the Rinnegan, secretly orchestrating a series of conspiracies. But he wasn't that kind of guy, otherwise, he wouldn't have slaughtered so many nobodies just for the sake of enlightenment, earning the deep-seated hatred of the daimyo and nobles who really ran this world. They'd gladly paid the 5 great nations handsomely to take him out. Those guys have been pulling strings in the shadows during the Valley of the End fight. Some guys are boys until they die. Even after getting his butt kicked, Hagoromo Shienua refused to change his ways. The world was wrong, not him. Besides, it's not me who should be afraid right now, it's the entire ninja world. Chapter 50 The Road Ahead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Yui Shienua imagined the 5 Kages' faces when they learned about his return, he couldn't help but chuckle, but the laughter was cut short by another coughing fit. Even though he'd successfully come back to life, Yui Shianua's body was still a wreck from his showdown with Hashirama Senju at Godfall Valley. His recent fight with the current AB combo had pushed him to his absolute limit. Why hadn't he waited to recover first? Yui Shienua had already taken stock of his condition and realized his injuries were too severe to heal quickly. To snag the bigger prize, the Cloud Ninja, without blowing Samui's cover, he needed to act fast. With Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha out of the picture, even in his weakened state, he was still a force to be reckoned with in the ninja world. All in all, today had been a success. Yui Shienua surveyed his spoils. Forget about the small fry like the average Cloud Ninja, he'd even managed to take the 4th Raikage down a peg, leaving him with a broken arm. It was almost a mirror image of the first Raikage's injury from the Godfall Valley battle, poetic, in a twisted way. Looking ahead, aside from the chaos about to erupt in the ninja world, Yui Shienua had a few key priorities. First, he needed to heal up, ASAP. No time to waste there. Second, he had to figure out how to fix his soul. A missing piece of his soul meant lost potential, impacting his fighting ability. He wasn't about to pull an Orochimaru and split his soul into a million pieces just to stay alive. He needed to find a way to reclaim those fragments trapped in the underworld and become whole again. Third, and this was his main focus all along, he had to keep studying the nature of chakra and perfect his bloodline. Oh, and there was also that pesky system. Sure, it had glitched out on him at first, and the AI had gone completely bonkers, but it was still a golden ticket. He'd keep grinding those quests and see what kind of rewards he could unlock. Maybe, just maybe, it could even help him achieve his greatest ambition. As for getting revenge for Godfall Valley and unleashing hell on their descendants, well, the 5 great nations were already at each other's throats. That wasn't his top concern right now. It wasn't that he'd forgotten the injustice. But once he'd nailed those first 3 goals and started down the path of bloodline mastery, payback would be a piece of cake. As long as he was strong enough to dominate, any problem would be easily handled. Obsessing over grudges and rushing into a half-baked revenge plot would be putting the cart before the horse. Yui Shienua knew what really mattered most. Let's be real, when it came to raw power, even ignoring the cheating freak Hashirama Senju, Uchiha Madara, with his Rinnegan and Hashirama's cells, would likely kick his ass in a straight fight. He still needed to level up. Yui Shienua glanced at the sky. Time to get moving. But before he did anything else, there was one crucial thing he needed to take care of: good wine, good food, a real feast. Ahem. After finally escaping the afterlife and feeling alive again, Yui Shienua was going to treat himself and make up for those lost 50+ years. He wasn't about to waste his second chance. Whoosh! Yui Shienua teleported to the top of his enormous statue. He stomped his foot, and vanished. The next second, crack. 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 The giant Yui Shienua statue began to crumble from the top down. In a heartbeat, the majestic monument to Yui Shienua shattered into thousands of pieces with a deafening roar. in the end, only the Hashirama Senju statue remained standing. The statue was dead, but the man lived on. Now that Yui Xianyu had been resurrected, the statue memorializing his life was no longer needed. From this moment forward, his story would be rewritten. More than 50 years after the devastating battle at Godfall Valley, the event quickly caught the attention of all parties in the ninja world. Hidden Cloud Village, having been directly involved, was naturally the first to learn the truth. Then came Konoha, not because Godfall Valley was located in the Land of Fire, but because after the battle, Konoha's border guards had spotted two people resembling the AB combo hightailing it from the Land of Fire, across the border, and toward the Land of Lightning without looking back. When this news reached Konoha, Tsunade, and the village elders, who had only just returned and hadn't even had time to officially crown her Hokage, were stunned. They couldn't understand why the Raikage would sneak into the Land of Fire. Was it a trap? Just as Konoha started to ramp up its defenses, the Cloud Ninja sent them intelligence, and not just to Konoha, but to the Sand, Stone, and Mist villages as well. The message was simple: Hagoromo Gengetsu had been fully resurrected, and the Raikage had lost an arm. The fourth Raikage wasn't trying to hide anything. He couldn't exactly hide the fact that he was missing an arm. Besides, the resurrection of the infamous old-timer from the Warring States period, Haniki Gengetsu, was a huge deal. Hidden Cloud Village couldn't handle it alone. Everyone knew the 5 Kages summit had been a bloodbath. Haniki Gengetsu's resurrection meant Hidden Cloud was in trouble. Would Konoha, Sand, Stone, and Mist just sit back and watch? Hidden Cloud's message was clear: nobody gets to opt out. Konoha, Hokage's office. Even though the 5th Hokage's inauguration ceremony was still in the works, Tsunade, who had become the supreme leader of Konoha the moment she stepped back into the village, hadn't had a moment to rest or even grab a drink. She was immediately thrown into the Hokage's seat, forced to deal with a mountain of accumulated paperwork. Looking at the stacks of documents towering on her desk, Tsunade regretted listening to Naruto and Jiraiya's sweet talking. But now, all Tsunade could do was become an emotionless stamp machine, sneaking in a nap on the documents when she could. Then came the news from Cloud, instantly snapping her awake. Hagoromo Gengetsu has been fully resurrected? Are you sure the Cloud Ninja weren't drunk when they sent this intel? Tsunade shot to her feet, slamming the Cloud Ninja report on the desk, her youthful face etched with disbelief. Jiraiya, standing beside her, nodded gravely. According to the recon team we sent to Godfall Valley, there was a major battle there. Traces of lightning release, tailed beast chakra, ice release, all the signs are there. It all lines up with the Cloud Ninja's report that Hagoromo Gengetsu fought the 4th Raikage in Killer Bee, the 8-Tails Jinchuriki. Putting it all together, plus the 4th Raikage's missing arm and the AB team's retreat, we can safely assume. Jiraiya trailed off, sounding a bit awkward. Having fought Hagoromo Gengetsu's Edo Tensei himself, he knew the reanimated version wasn't nearly strong enough to push the AB combo that far, so, there was only one conclusion. Hagoromo Gengetsu is really back.